welcome to my film review of Dumbo. Now, this is a remake of a movie. I think Disney first did this, was it in the 1940s maybe, something like that. So it's an ancient movie from its origin, and a movie that probably most people had already seen, or at least I'd hope so anyway, because as a kid growing up, these were the kind of movies that I used to watch with my gran. Good times. And I loved them. Thought the original Dumbo was absolutely awesome. Although I haven't seen it for well over 20 years now, so there was a lot of, what the movie was about that I couldn't even really remember. And this modern version reminds you, it has certain scenes that happen in the original that when you see them in this, you're like, yes, I remember that scene. But my problem with this modern version is it doesn't do any of them as well. It feels like a poor remake, After all this time, and with the technology that we have to, animation skills that we can do, CGI, you would think that after all this time, the remake of Dumbo would be absolutely amazing. And I'm afraid it just isn't, unfortunately. I'll give you some kind of examples of where I think things have worked. The Jungle Book, the original, absolutely awesome. You're thinking, what the hell are you doing remaking it? And I went into it with a bit of, what's this going to be like? And I loved it. I think the modern version is absolutely brilliant. It's never going to be as good as the original, but it's a perfectly good remake. They added a few modern twists to the new Jungle Book, and it just worked. With the Dumbo movie, for me, got a car flying past there, revving his engines. I'm sure you could hear that. Anyway, with Dumbo, with the modern version of Dumbo, it just didn't seem to be unique. It didn't really seem to have any unique element to it that made it worth remaking it. Other than the fact that instead of it being a computer-drawn version, cartoon version, it was a real-life version. Now, the cinema, the spectacle of going to the cinema to see it, the CGI was absolutely brilliant. But to be honest, we're a little bit spoilt now with movies like that, and you kind of take it for granted. The fact that the elephant looked so real, yet clearly, it couldn't have possibly been real, obviously. So it's amazing to see these movies, but now that we live in a world of the Avengers and these kind of, the bar has been raised. So just because you can remake a movie and make it with flawless visual special effects doesn't necessarily mean you should, unless you've got a really good idea for a slightly unique take on it. And I was constantly a little bit disappointed with Dumbo. So there was parts of the story where things happened and you were just supposed to be like, okay, so you're just going to throw that line in there and we're supposed to buy it. It's not a very well thought out line. It's kind of like, where you can critique a movie in your head. There was parts where you were just thinking, really, would you have done that? Not majorly to the point where it spoils it, but it's on your mind because you're thinking, if this is a remade movie after, 80 years or whatever, surely it's going to be watertight, it's been well thought out, it's been in the making maybe for 20 years, and it's going to be a masterpiece. And it just wasn't, I'm afraid. So, yeah, disappointed, deflated, disappointed. So I'm not going to say anything about the movie, other than to reiterate that, it's a nice reminder of the original movie. If you said to me you can never watch the original Dumbo again, I'd be grateful of this movie, because it would remind me of the parts of the original Dumbo movie that when I saw them in this, I was like, I remember that scene from the cartoon, and the enjoy that half a smile comes to your face, and it's not because of what you're seeing on screen, it's because of what you've been reminded of from the original movie. So it was like a love letter to the original. It's just, it just didn't work. It seemed pointless. I had heard slightly negative from my sister, and she took her daughter to go and see this, and they didn't seem overly thingy about it. And obviously I don't want them to tell me anything about it, because I like to know nothing about movies when I go and see them. And I can see why they were underwhelmed. So to get to the key points, I could kind of grumble on about how disappointing this is, but let's get to the key points to help you understand whether this is the movie for you. So, I'm in my 30s. I watched all these original Disney movies long before Pixar came out, you know? Once Pixar came out and did Toy Story and beyond, it changed kids' movies forever. I'm old school. I like the original Lion King, the original Pinocchio, you know, all the movies that Disney did in the early 1900s when they first formed. I love those movies. I grew up on those movies, watched them with my gran. Wish she was still here so I could watch them with her again. Don't have any of my own kids to watch them with, so it's just this little tray of memory from my childhood that I know brings me a great deal of happiness. So, with that in mind, whenever a remake of a movie comes out, I get instantly nervous. I think, no, what you're doing, you can't make it any better. You're just going to make it worse and spoil my memories. That's kind of how I feel. So when the new Lion King comes out, the Lion King is possibly my favourite Disney movie of all time. So I'm very nervous about the Lion King movie that's coming out later. You know, as you can probably understand. So, if you are like me and of the era where you watched all the originals, you're probably not going to fall in love with this. Same with Mary Poppins. Didn't not like the new Mary Poppins at all. The original, love it. Absolutely amazing. One of the best movies ever. It reminds you of being with your family at Christmas, all sitting around together watching it. This new one, like I say, don't have my own kids to watch it with. Don't have my gran to take to the cinema to watch it with, so doesn't really do it for me. So that's one perspective. The other angle to look at it is, do you have kids? Because I think if you have kids, they might not have seen the original Dumbo movie. You know, you're probably so busy watching The Incredibles and all these modern versions of kids' movies that you probably haven't gone back and watched all the original classic Disney movies. In which case, if you took your kid to see this, I could imagine them being blown away with it. You know, oh my God, an elephant that does X. I'm not even going to say what it does because you might not remember, and therefore I don't want to spoil the movie. But, you know, this remarkable little elephant, and the kids will probably be blown away with it, especially because of the CGI. This isn't hand-drawn cartoons. This is real-looking elephants doing awesome stuff. So if that's the case, and you're taking kids to see it, you're probably going to love it. And the kids are probably going to love it. But you probably won't get, as the adult, you probably won't get the same kicks out of it. That's all I'm saying. So if you've got kids, by all means, the kids are going to love this. Take the kids to see it. From a cinematic point of view, it's spectacular. The fact that I saw it at the cinema probably is going to give me an extra half a point to a full point in its rating, just because to see it at the cinema is spectacular. You know, circus elements and a lot going on screen, and definitely seeing it on the big screen helps and gets you the most out of it. So it's definitely worth going to the cinema to see if you've got kids. If, like me, you don't, and you're thinking, is this for me? Am I going to go and watch it, enjoy it because of old time's sake? Save your money. Unless, like me, you've got a Cineworld pass where you can go to as many movies as you want. Yeah, check it out. See it at the cinema. It's worth seeing. If you're going to see it, it's worth seeing at the cinema. But unless you've got kids, it's not something you want to pay for. Wait till it comes out at Christmas and watch it then. You know, in a couple of years' time for free. So you don't want to shell out too much money on this one. Try and take the kids. Wait until the kids have got the movies for juniors, you know, once the film's more or less finished at the cinema, and then on a weekend to bring it out at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's a fraction of the price, and only kids and families are supposed to go. That's when I would recommend going and seeing this movie. So don't pay full price for it. Wait until it's on the movies for juniors. Get into this movie as cheaply as possible if you can, because it is disappointing. So here's my score. I would rate this movie 6.5 out of 10, and I walked out of the cinema thinking, am I being generous giving it 6.5? And I think it's mainly because it's getting bonus points for the small degree of nostalgia, reminding me of the original movie. But all I want to do now is go back and watch the original movie. I wish my niece was, you know, young enough that she still wanted to hang out and watch movies, because I'd love to watch that with her. But she'd find the old Dumbo lame now. I think she's at that age. So it makes me want to watch the original Dumbo, because it's reminded me how awesome the original Dumbo was. This, not so much. The fact that I saw it on a big screen also gives it some bonus points. So really, you know, I could have given this a 5 out of 10 if I was being really harsh. But I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. And I do feel like I'm being a little bit generous there. So, on the whole, 6.5 out of 10, that's what you need to know. It's not worth paying to see at the cinema, but if you've got kids, take them in the cheapest fashion possible, because you, as an adult, will be a little bit disappointed in this movie. And popcorn muncher, yep, I think there's plenty of noise, so you can get the popcorn in, although that makes it an expensive day out at the cinema, and it's not worth it for this film. And the characters that are in it, Danny DeVito, I didn't realise he was in it. Thank God he was in it. I love Danny DeVito. That was a bonus. And that's about all I need to cover in this review, really. So I hope you found this incredibly useful, because you need to know, if you're going to spend all this money going to the cinema, you need to know what's worth going to the cinema to see. And this, you don't want to pay 40 quid to take the family to see this at the cinema. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Take them when it's cheap. That's my final note on this movie. So, disappointed, but I'm glad I saw it at the cinema, because that's the only place to see these kind of movies. But I have the unlimited pass, so I can see as many movies as I want without any extra cost. Next up is Tolkien. Looking forward to that. Big Lord of the Rings fan. So check out that review if it's something you're thinking about seeing. And thanks for joining me on this one. We'll see you on the next review. Thanks for listening, and let me know, especially if you're 30 or older, what did you think of this Dumbo? Was it as disappointing as what I thought, or am I being a little bit too harsh? Okay, thanks for listening. See you on the next review. Goodbye.